What's good, y'all? This your boy Black G92. Now, for this afternoon, I'm going to do a reaction to another Critical Drinker video, which he has posted 6 days ago, titled "The Truth About Toxic Fandoms." And I've also peeped how it put that phrase in quotation marks, the toxic fandoms, like phrase, like in quotation marks, because that's all it has been reduced to. Like, it doesn't really mean anything nowadays. And normally, when I see that term used, it's basically used to just dismiss anyone within a particular fandom of a popular film, TV series, or even a book franchise, for just having a different opinion, just having a legitimate critique, having legitimate criticism of said former medium, and then it's automatically dismissed as just any sort, all these different forms of phobias or isms, whatever. When like the person just simply has a different opinion or just has a legitimate criticism said body of work. You know what I mean? Now, it's not to say there's just like at those that fit the description, of course, but for the most part, like folks just have they're not gonna love everything about that comes out from said franchise. You know what I mean? So I don't like that type of shit that goes on. You feel me? It just like doesn't induce like say conversation. You know what I mean? Like that's very opposite of having a conversation about said body of work. You know, if you just dismiss any sort of criticism, you know what I mean, that can perhaps help say book, TV series, or movie become better. You know what I mean? Because if you just accept anything because it's a popular franchise, whatever, then how's it gonna get better? You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to see what Critical Drinker has to say about this topic in about 3, 2, 1.
You know, one of the charming little phrases that really seems to be doing the rounds these days is toxic fandoms. And holy shit, are they tearing the arse out of this one? It seems really like everywhere you look, there's a tidal wave of hand-wringing, self-righteous...
Hold on, let me read what it says. Moses Ingram's the latest target of toxic Star Wars fans. Star Trek's William Shatner's message for toxic fans have made Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's trial in the scale. What? How? I wonder how is that the case? My fault. I know it's only been a few minutes.
Toxic fandoms. And holy shit, are they tearing the arse out of this one? It seems like everywhere you look, there's a tidal wave of hand-wringing, self-righteous op-eds bemoaning the toxic state of whatever fandom is currently in the news. Star Wars, Star Trek, Ghostbusters, Lord of the Rings. Shit, man, even Halo fans are...
Let me go ahead and read. Let me go back and read what it says.
Star Wars, Star Trek...
Star Trek, Star Runner. Alex Kurtzman talks about toxic fandom, debate of toxicity.
Ghostbusters.
Oh shit! I remember the whole Ghostbusters controversy, which I have not seen the film itself. I only hear about it, seen the trailer, of course, which doesn't look interesting. Like as far as the trailer, what people has said about it online, but I might check it out one of these days. I mean, just to see if it's as bad as people say it is. But based on the whole controversy behind it, I'm not too sure if I even want to sit through it. Oh shit! People actually wrote this though. Like, I'm quite sure there's a lot of women that are fans of Ghostbusters, just weren't fans of that Ghostbusters. You know what I mean?
Lord of the Rings. Shit, man, even Halo fans are toxic now, apparently.
Wow.
So what the fuck's going on? Why is every fandom suddenly more hazardous to your health than a 2-week self-catering holiday in Chernobyl? Well, all of this stuff came to a bit of a head recently when Moses Ingram, one of the main actors in Kenobi, shared a couple of samples of the abuse she'd been getting on Instagram. Nasty stuff that she absolutely didn't deserve. But what's even more interesting is the media firestorm that erupted in the wake of it. Suddenly, articles started popping up everywhere complaining about the toxic state of the Star Wars fandom, how it's riddled with ists and phobes, and how something needs to be done, goddammit. Even the official Star Wars Twitter account decided to weigh in on the situation because...
Now, I do remember seeing that tweet, and well, it's the right thing to do. Like, I was just wondering how come none of this was even mentioned about the Chinese poster of like the Force Awakens when they removed Boyega's likeness from said Chinese poster. They say they made no fuss about it. You know what I mean? So I was like, how come this was going on like 8 years ago with that situation, or even when like Black Panther, when like Chadwick Boseman's face was covered with the Black Panther mask for the Chinese poster of Black Panther back in 2018, because Disney owns Star Wars. Well, of course it's a different franchise because Marvel and Disney, not Marvel, but Marvel and Star Wars are different companies, but they're both owned by Disney. So Disney do all this like hoopla and like do these grand statements about we should resist racism. Which, like I said, there's nothing wrong with being against any sort of racism or anything like that, or any sort of racism or any sort of bigotry. But it's just more so being consistent with it. You know what I mean? Like, because MCU didn't raise no fuss about that, but fuss about like Chadwick Boseman's face being covered for the Chinese poster of Black Panther. So it's like, okay, now like, where's all that talk when it happened 3, 4 years or even 8 years ago? But like I said, and I also read the screenshots of like the DMs that Moses Ingram, which that was fucked up what they said to her. Like it shouldn't. Those people that said that to her shouldn't have said that to her. You know what I mean? Because that wasn't right. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have to assume like she got it because of some sort of higher diversity hire or whatever. That was just fucked up when they said that. So like Moses Ingram had every right to be upset about it. You know what I mean? So on that note, like Moses Ingram had every right to be upset about the email she received in that DM, because the station, if they had an issue with the show, then this is one thing. But if they start attacking her like ethnicity and all that, then that's not cool. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's get back to it.
Insulting your own fan base and lumping everyone into the same basket is a surefire way to get people on your side.
Yeah.
Now, if I was a cynical man, I'd say it almost looks like this controversy wasn't just something they were prepared for, it's something they were practically counting on. Because if you're able to focus everyone's attention on allegations of abuse and discrimination against one of your actors, then suddenly all the actual criticisms of your show get conveniently forgotten about. Because let's be honest here, who cares about the opinions of a group of toxic haters that were never going to be happy anyway? But here's the problem. The overwhelming majority of the criticism for this show had absolutely nothing to do with one particular actress, much less the innate characteristics she was born with.
Yeah.
Based on pretty much every video and Twitter post that I've seen on the subject, people are annoyed because it's becoming increasingly obvious with every passing episode that Kenobi isn't really about Kenobi. It's just another example of Lucasfilm milking a popular legacy character for their name recognition, then altering their personality, removing most of their agency, charisma, resilience, skill and intelligence, and generally diminishing them so they can play second fiddle to the new original character that the show is actually focused on. And I think that infamous tweet from the official Star Wars account gave away more than they'd intended. Now pay attention 007 because this bit's important. They are excited for Reva's story to unfold. I think that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the writer's intentions here. The show might be called Kenobi, but it's actually Reva's story. It's a classic big...
Now, I haven't seen the show, but I did watch a review from just some guy's YouTube channel, and like the first couple episodes were pretty good. I know based on what I've read on heard about the reviews, like it's the first couple episodes pretty good. It's like the third or the fourth, and it started becoming kind of funky. Now, based on what I've seen on headlines and such, it started getting a little like kind of funky as far as like the writing and characterization of Obi-Wan. You know what I mean? And also amongst other things. So I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about that one, but I'm gonna have to just see for myself, and then come back to it and see if it's like what they mean by it when they made that statement. But I'm sure. I mean, I didn't read too much. Like I said, and plus I didn't read that deep into it. But it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. I mean, if there was this bigging up the new character as opposed to the OG character for his spinoff series, because it's under his name. So.
Switch tactic to drum up interest in something that most people wouldn't have given a shit about. Lucasfilm have been lying to their own fan base, promising one thing but delivering something else, and now that they've been found out, what do? Well, they could take the criticism on the chin, acknowledge that what they delivered may not have been what was promised, and ask people to judge the show on its own merits. Or they could create a manufactured controversy to simultaneously draw attention away from their devious skullduggery and publicly discredit their most vocal critics. I wonder which one they chose. It was basically the same deal with Star Trek Discovery. A lot
Uh-oh.
of people had some pretty valid criticisms of main character Michael Burnham, namely that she was a very obvious retcon inserted into a storyline that she was never meant to be part of, that the writers
Ah,
diminished and undermined established legacy characters to elevate her to borderline messiah who solves almost every problem single-handed,
damn.
or that she generally comes across as arrogant, self-righteous, disrespectful, impulsive, and insubordinate without ever answering for these flaws. But no,
Damn. Doesn't sound like the most well-written character for certain. Like, if that's the case, like shit, that is well warranted. It's definitely well warranted, like the criticism, because that sound like a whole Mary Sue like we had to deal with on deal with like what's her name Ray from like the sequel trilogy, like, and also what you call it. Was also what you call it, Carol Danvers from the Captain Marvel film, like based on like the reviews and such and stuff I read about, and parts of the film I have sat through and watched. So, and I don't know, I don't get why certain why like these studios like to write these Mary Sues or like these perfect people, like whether male or female, and just do everything right, just do everything right, and like this not have any sort of obstacles, just to have them challenged. You know what I mean? And go to said challenge and come out better. But I don't know, man. These writers out here be like have no sort of idea how don't know how to write good characters.
clearly toxic fans just hated her because of her gender and skin colour,
Lord
ignoring the fact that there's
Jesus.
been decades of popular characters of every race, sex, and species long before Saint Michael was ever dreamed up. Or how about
Mm,
Ghostbusters 2016? Were fans angry because the studio shit-canned a sequel they'd been wanting for years and instead delivered
basically.
a dumb, cartoonish, painfully unfunny reboot that absolutely nobody asked for,
Yeah.
directed by a man with zero understanding of the subject matter? Or did they just hate it because women bad? Or how about Rings of Power? Do you think Tolkien fans are pushing back against the show's very obvious attempts to twist and alter the lore of a classic and beloved fantasy world and infuse it with divisive 21st century sensibilities and
Mm,
ideology? Or do you think they just instinctively lose their minds at the prospect of different levels of melanin being shown on screen? What all this comes down to is another little phrase that started to pop up quite a bit in recent
mm-hmm.
years: crafting the narrative.
Yep,
See,
crafting
most people
narratives.
aren't really driven by dry facts and figures and data points because those things have to be studied in detail and
Mm-hmm.
understood and interpreted, and all
Yep.
of that takes time and effort. And that's a real problem because people today are usually too busy, too distracted by a dozen other demands on their attention, or just too fucking lazy to do actual research of their own. What they need instead is something that generates a visceral emotional reaction to get them engaged.
Mm.
A series of extreme sensationalized examples.
That could be applied to anything, like as far as being distracted by all this different stuff popping up on social media to even like look into the facts of a like say franchise, and not say a franchise but about a film, TV series, or just like life in general. Because folks is it seems like the only thing that get their attention is just some sort of exaggerated or outright manufactured controversy get their attention instead of like looking at the facts of what's going on of said controversy. You know what I mean? And it removes, like I said earlier, it removes like any elements of like legitimate discussions and debates. Just a bunch of just folks screaming at each other instead of and throwing insults and ad hominems. Instead of like getting to the facts and the root of why said like new series isn't really working when especially on the Rings of Power, like oh my god, like the fact that they want to just do all this like race swapping and like which the race swapping like certain like races and the Tolkien lore and just rewriting it as some sort of we just doing something great and advancing Tolkien's work and stuff. Like first of all, like there's a reason the elves and well not elves but whoever was depicted in like the Rings of Power were the way they were in the original work was because Tolkien written it based off of like English mythology and shit. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't made with 21st century sensibilities in mind. And when the creators of the Rings of Power did that, it just showed how they lacked understanding of Tolkien's work and want to change up to fit their narrative instead of come up with their own shit. Because they know if they come up with something truly original, it's gonna suck ass. So that's the gist of that whole Rings of Power controversy. Because folks just want to just like take or hijack some that's what's we call it, that's like critically acclaimed and just already like popular like intellectual property, just make it and perverse it to fit their own agenda.
Strung together into a simple, cohesive, easy to digest opinion,
Mm.
i.e., a narrative. And if that
Yeah.
opinion happens to line up with what they already believe, because they've been told the same thing by a bunch of other sources, then so much the better. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. A very obvious attempt to craft a new narrative and use it to shame and ridicule anyone who dares to criticise their work. This movie isn't actually shit, it's just the work of toxic fans who are never happy with anything. This character isn't badly written, unlikable, or awkwardly inserted into a story they don't belong in. It's just toxic fans who can't stand to see diversity or inclusion. This actor didn't deliver an unconvincing performance or make a bunch of dumb statements in real life. The backlash against them is just down to a fundamentally toxic fandom. Every single time, the same accusations of bigotry and toxicity get flung around like monkeys throwing their poo at each other. But what does any of this actually accomplish except to piss off and alienate the very people that you're trying to appeal to? Moderate fans who might have had a few issues with shows like Kenobi, but generally still support new Star Wars projects, are going to feel like they're being unfairly labelled as something that they're not.
Yeah.
People who were already hostile to Disney and Lucasfilm are going to have their opinions vindicated by a company that seems determined to antagonise them. This constant cycle of social media sniping, suspiciously timed hit piece articles, and preachy opinion pieces only serves to contribute to a general atmosphere of animosity and resentment between fans and studios.
Mhm.
The more you bite back at your fans and try to score short-term victories over them, the more you'll piss them off in the long run, and the less
Thank you.
forgiving they'll be of your
Thank
next
you.
project. This means more criticism of your work, which in turn leads to more counterattacks, and well, I think you get the drift.
Oh, yeah.
Like Star Trek Picard showrunner Michael Chabon, who straight up admitted that he made certain creative decisions simply to provoke and piss off elements of the fan base that he decided were toxic. Now
Oh
ask
my
yourself a
God.
serious question. Do you really think
And
this
it's
kind
kind of sad when there's these high-paid directors and showrunners just be doing this on purpose just to piss off like the fans. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do as as executive. Like, you're supposed to deliver what the fans expected of a show. Like, for instance, like you mentioned about Star Trek, you're supposed to deliver them what they want, not just do all this weird shit just to appease like a small percentage of people that just look at that like something because like they belong to a certain identity group or say or push a certain ideology that they already agree with. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do as a showrunner. You're supposed to make that appeal to everyone within that fandom, regardless. You know what I mean? That's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? As an executive. And plus, not to mention, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You know what I mean? Because you're going to lose not only the show going to end up canceled within the first 2, maybe 3 seasons, like Batwoman when it happened with Batwoman. Like, it lasted for like 3 seasons, but the ratings just dropped after that first season because people was going on and the whole like the whole like mess behind the scenes and poorly written script as well as the race swapping and just like the whole and also virtue signaling that was going on with the main character and such. Just, you know what I mean, just turn off all the people that may be interested in watching a good show, well produced show as well. And you see that with not only Star Trek but other like franchises. Like I mentioned, Rings of Power. Like, there's a reason that folks are either fans of Tolkien and or fans of the Peter Jackson adaptation of the Lord of the Rings trilogy that are not thrilled about Rings of Power because all this goofy shit going on. You know what I mean? So yeah, those people those people that's like making these decisions need to, like, I don't know what needs to happen for real. They need to just get fired or something.
spiteful, childish bullshit is going to win people over to your sides?
Yeah.
Basically, what I'm saying here is that if you treat your own fans like enemies, then that's exactly what you're going to make them.
Basically.
Now, all that being said, I don't doubt for a second that there are some genuinely shitty individuals out there, and they should rightly be called out for their bigotry, but that's exactly what they are, individuals. They don't represent the larger fan base they claim to be part of, and trying to tar everyone with the same brush is disingenuous as fuck. Toxicity isn't some convenient label that you can just slap on anyone who dares to criticize you. It's not a magical shield to protect you from negative feedback. Criticizing bad storytelling isn't toxic. Criticizing a director who delivered a poor product An actor who turned in a bad performance or said stupid things in real life isn't toxic. If people
at
have a
all.
problem with the story that you've told, the characters you've written, or even the opinions you've expressed in public, then they have every right to call you out on it. You're not obliged to listen to them, but you don't get to silence or discredit them just because you don't like what they're saying. Because if those are the kind of underhanded tactics that you find yourself relying on, then maybe it's time you start asking yourself who the toxic one really is. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Damn, go away now. Oh boy, Critical Drinker just went in on them folks, man. Shit, let these people know, because I think that's something that these directors and, like you meant, also point out before, these actors, actresses, when they give a bad performance or say something outright stupid in the name of pushing a message. I mean, or just or shedding light to an important issue. Like, yeah, they need to hear this for real, because like it's because people have a problem with like how a story is written in the movie, TV show, or like a movie, TV show doesn't mean like that person is inherently toxic. I've said this earlier, and it needs to be said again because apparently that's what's lost. That's what's lost. You know what I mean, especially online, and that's how I've been feeling for the past like few months or so. It's like when are we gonna get back to like film criticism that without being with accepting people's opinions of said bodies of work without them being labeled. You know what I mean? And I just don't like that shit. You know what I mean? And because then it's like how is it going to like make how is we going to expect like the bodies of work become better? You know what I mean? Because having solid criticisms what like will push someone to be better. Am I right? I mean, how you expect that? How you gonna expect that if that all you hear is this bunch of fluff think pieces that's gonna think dismiss all that criticism and just focus on themes instead of having something well written and cohesive. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. Let me see what the comments saying in this video because I probably talked a storm. It's gonna be like a long ass video already. See, Disney, we resist a multi-million-dollar corporation trying to act like freedom fighters. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the fucking truth? Like, Henry Cavill once said, when it comes to fans, it's the fans' right to have whatever opinion they want to have. If people are going to be upset, I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I consider that passion. Hey, Henry Cavill, based. Hey, he said some truth right there. And toxicity nowadays, we demand that the story characters are coherent, respectful, and well written. Unfortunately, that's what it is these days when it comes to film criticism or like having something to say about a new product. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, it shouldn't be this way. But unfortunately, the powers that may be and people of a certain ideology want to like dismiss that and just label it as such, like when it's not even toxic at all. You know what I mean? It's just having an opinion. We resist like that means anything from a company that panders to Beijing, cares nothing for the artist's internal integrity of their intellectual properties, abuses, exploits young talent, cuts ties with a domestic violence victim. Cowards use only the resistance label to deny Lucas further role. Whoa, they deny Lucas royalties? Keep the justification of rebellion era merchandise cared stories, undoing everything original trilogy, and during it, radioactively pointless and stupid. That's a good point, man. Solid point, because that's what it's starting to look like since The Force Awakens has been released. You know what I mean? Just like this undoing all the trials and tribulations that the characters from the original trilogy have underwent this pointless. You know what I mean? And as well as the prequel trilogy, as well as like the 2003 Clone Wars series. So yeah, that's what's going on right now. Unfortunately, we just gotta just keep our fingers crossed and hope people will listen to like sound minds and get back to, you know what I mean, respecting the integrity of like intellectual properties and such. So and compensating the original creators of of said franchise, namely Star Wars and the like. So anyway, I'm gonna get back. Anyway, I'm going to close out. If you want to react to more Critical Drinker videos, be sure to hit that like button, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button as well, and be sure to let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you want to react to, like I said, anything related to Critical Drinker or movies, countdowns, freaking songs, music videos. What else? What else? Movie clips, movie trailers, as well as analysis vids. Post them in the comment section below. Be sure to follow me on social media accounts, which you post in the description box below. And also stay tuned for my quick initial thoughts of Jurassic World Dominion, which will be done tonight after I do another reaction video, which will be posted sometime after this one. This your boy Black G92 by sign off. Holla at your boy. Peace.